Once again to this live edition of the Cow Report. I'm your host, Chuck Lee, and as usual I have with me my rusty trusty sidekick, Fred, the true staffer. Glad to have you on the show tonight, Fred.
Okay there.
Nice to see you again there, Fred. I haven't seen you for several weeks. And of course we are coming to you live from the beautiful tire factory in downtown Eau Claire, formerly the Uniroyal plant, now rejuvenated into a thriving business area. And we're right in the middle of it here, right smack dab in the middle of it, Fred. And I noticed earlier as I was coming up, you were still building those radials for me. You got those about done yet?
What?
All right, okay, I'm glad to hear it. Okay, this is the Cow Report, and today is what, Fred? August 5th, 1996. And of course, Roy Rogers Hoff will catch up eventually and get that on the screen for us there. He's running into overtime, and hopefully we got sound in here tonight. All right, Fred, as usual, after 20, 25 years of doing this, boy, oh boy, we got a lot to talk about again. You know what?
Yes.
If it ain't one thing, it's another.
We got the Pioneer Days coming up. The steam engines and tractors and whatnot are going to be on display there at Highway 37 and 85.
Okay there. Well, this isn't no hammer and sickle, Fred, but we got to call this meeting to order. Now, you've been in all these different things for many, many years. Now, how do you start a meeting? Ladies and gentlemen, the Loyal Order of the Raccoons is now in business.
Yes.
Please take off your hat and salute those that you follow, Fred.
Yes.
All right. Okay, we're now in business. Okay, now what were you saying about the Pioneer Days?
Pioneer Days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, highways 85 and 37, and they're going to have a lot of steam engines and things of that nature there, tractor pull and whatnot.
They have that thing every year, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, I hear it's quite a doings out there. Now, when's that coming up?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
This Thursday.
Yes.
It's out there on the way on the road to Mondovi, isn't it?
Right.
Just outside of town there. Yeah, there's a little bit of construction there, so go early if you're going. And of course, you know, Fred, this show's been on for many, many years now, and you can watch this show right here as seen on TV.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Fred, well, you know we're going to talk about a lot here, and we are going to take some calls there. I don't know if Roy's got the phones lined up, but we will be taking calls at 839-5067. No, it's not that number tonight. Well, Roy will be bringing up the correct number here eventually. And of course, we're speaking about Roy Rogers Hoff, whose great-great-uncle was related to Caesar on the Italian side of the family.
Yeah.
All right. This is August 5th, 1996 there, for those of you who have a TV that only shows a 9 on the screen. All right, Fred, well, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on with the budget. And as we speak here tonight live, the City Council is meeting over there, carving up that $300 per household that was forced to be given back by the Eau Claire School Board because of the great work of Tommy Thompson and Dave Zine and Rob Krybeck and the other conservatives who were conservative with the taxpayers' money and forced the school boards all across the land to give back some of the excessive money that they were wasting and giving themselves in big raises and stuff and blowing on insignificant, ridiculous programs.
Yes.
Well, they had to cut back by law, Fred.
Yeah.
So in the case of the school board here in Eau Claire, run by the benevolent, what's his name?
Hanson,
Lee Hanson, superintendent of schools, they had to come up with roughly about $300 in tax savings on, I think, a $70,000 or $100,000 house, something in that, around $70,000 house. So lo and behold, Fred, when we first found out about that and reported it right here on this program several weeks ago, we warned the taxpayers of Eau Claire out there that the city of Eau Claire was going to try and steal that tax return that you were going to get for a nice Christmas present this year. The city of Eau Claire, with their socialist agenda and their socialist people in office, were going to try and steal those tax refunds, the tax break that the taxpayers were going to get that was forced upon them by the state assembly and signed into law by Governor Thompson. Well, it's coming to pass now, Fred. The leaders of some of these agencies in town, like the police department, the fire department, The bus people down there, the ones that run the city bus system, and of course the arena thugs out there that are trying to force between a $30 and $50 million arena and improvements on us, and the ones that are pushing for all these $1 million new parks in town here and stuff. Well, they've jumped into gear, Fred. They jumped into high gear. They saw that savings that was forced on the school board. They saw that money there, and what they do, they pounced on it with all 4 feet. 2 feet and 2 paws, Fred. They jumped right on it, just like any socialist would do, because socialists have to maintain the socialist programs that they have in place, plus adding to them, Fred, plus working in for inflation and everything. So they're saying now, including the city manager here in town, is saying now that the city budget, without all of these new things like 20 new cops and 20 new firemen, and the road repairs and the $1 million parks that they passed, and adding on to the bus system here in town that is bankrupt now. It goes in the hole every year. And you can see the dinosaurs driving around town empty 90% of the time. Well, anyway, all these people now are seeing that money, and they're jumping on it and grabbing it with both greedy fists. And of course we have the banksters here in town. They want to get more money and make more loans to the city so that they can get their cut out of the deal, just like any bankster gangster would. And so we got some big troubles here, Fred. They're grabbing up all that $300 savings, roughly per taxpayer, per person that owns a house here in town. And they're going to steal it, Fred. The city of Eau Claire, with their big spending liberals, is going to steal every dime of that $300, Fred. Now I want to know what you're going to do about it.
Well, I might go down to the city council and raise my voice on that issue.
Well, that would be nice of you, Fred, but we're running out of time, and you, the taxpayers out there, are running out of time. If you want to have that money so you can buy a nice new TV or a VCR or what have you for Christmas, or give some money to your kids for school clothes this fall, or for the books, or to help pay for a little bit of your son or daughter's education in college, you're going to have to voice your concerns. You're going to have to find out who your city council member is in your area. You're going to have to call them and tell them to quit stealing that tax money and let it go back to you in the form of a tax break this year. Now, Don Norell in the paper here in just the last few days said, without all of these extravagant new programs, the budget's going to go up 10 to 15%. That's just maintaining their little kickbacks and their little raises and stuff, Fred. That's not adding on these 20 cops. Now, what do you think they're going to do with 20 new cops in Eau Claire? They're going to have 20 new cops to run around and write tickets. What do you think they're going to do with 20 new policemen in town? There's not that many more fires. So they're going to be on the payroll. And I think they said in the paper that it's something like $40,000 or $45,000 per cop or fireman, Fred. So you take 40 times that, round it off to 40,000. What's 40 times 40? It's probably about 1.6 million just for that. Plus you add on to this new park, which is eventually going to cost way more than $1 million. That was already they already look like they're caving into that. And I talked to some people that said there was some crooked dealings in the background there. This is just rumor, Fred, that there's some crooked dealings or some good old boy tactics in the background to get a hold of the land where that new park is going on. But that's just a rumor that I heard. And also, Fred, have you drove on the streets of Eau Claire lately?
Yes.
What do you think about them? Are they lovely?
Yes.
They're lovely streets. You haven't lost any mufflers or shocks or anything driving on them?
Not yet.
What do you think? They're in fine shape, or they need work?
Well, they need work.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't voice your concerns not only to Don Norell and to your city councilman, they're going to carve up that money and more.
Yeah, he knows.
They're going to carve it up and more. Your tax bill is going to be higher than ever. And that's not what we were promised out of Madison. We were promised savings, not promised the city and the county and the Chippewa Valley Technical College were going to carve up what we forced the schools to give back to us. Now, don't feel sorry for the school system. Their budget is bigger than ever. They've almost doubled their budget in the last 10 years. So don't feel sorry for Lee Hansen and all of the big shot, high-priced people that he's got working for him. Don't feel sorry for them because they all got big fat raises, and they've all got it set up so they can go out and take turns playing golf. So don't be feeling sorry for them. There's more money in that budget than ever. They were forced by the state to give back a certain amount of that money to you, the taxpayer. But now the city is going to steal that unless you voice your concerns and do it very quickly. All right. So, Fred, what do you got there today? Or do you want to say more about this money that is quickly vanishing before our eyes?
Yeah, they already did that.
We'll be taking a call here in a minute, Fred, but what do you think about all that?
I'm not in favor of it, to be very frank with you.
In favor of what?
Taking the money.
You think it's time the taxpayer got a little breather here?
Yes.
They've been running, all employed people in this area have been running to keep up with the tax man and the big spending liberals that control these boards in the area. You think it's time they had a little break, Fred?
Yes.
Okay, well, great. Glad to hear it. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Chuck.
Hello.
What do you think about the right wing and left wing as far as political parties? Which one do you belong to?
Which party do I belong to, or which side of the
Well,
spectrum?
left wing or right wing?
All right, well, thank you. We'll see if we can answer that there. Well, actually, there's a left wing and a right wing of the Republican Party, and there's a left wing and a right wing of the Democratic Party. Of course, if you look on the spectrum, you would consider the Democratic Party to the left of center, the Republican Party to the right of center. But then within the Republican Party, you have liberal Republicans and conservative Republicans. In the Democratic Party, you have, on the left side of the spectrum, you have liberal Democrats and conservative Democrats. Now, the conservative Democrats and the liberal Republicans are pretty much considered moderates. Well, I would fall in a little bit to the right of the moderate wing of the Republican Party. How about you, Fred?
Yes.
Where are you at in that spectrum?
You just voiced my opinion.
Okay, we're both members
Right.
of the Republican Party,
Yes.
and well, I consider myself pretty much a conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, Fred, there is a move within the Republican Party to shift to the left, to shift to become more
Right.
moderate. And of course, the stalwart of the party is Bob Dole, who has been a moderate for years. Once in a while, he flirts with the conservative wing of the party, but then he never goes on a date. He's just a big flirter. He always goes back to the moderate wing of the party there. So, Fred, I don't think we've ever flirted or tried to go on a date with the moderates. We're pretty much hardcore conservatives, aren't we?
I guess so.
You mean you're slipping on us here? Are you going to the left or what?
I'm not.
Or are you going farther to the right?
I think the right side is better.
Okay, Fred, what do you got on there on some voting records, and then we'll take a call.
Well,
You got Kryvek or Zine there?
we got Zine.
You just got a printout from the...
100% pro-life Zine.
This is from the latest group of votes from the State
Yeah.
Assembly and State
Yes.
Senate. Dave Zine comes down at 100%
Pro-life.
pro-life voting record, and you'll have to look in the Assembly for Kryvek
Yes.
under the Ks. All right.
100% pro-life.
Rob Kryvek's 100%
And we
pro-life.
got in this area.
Dave Plombaum, you have to look under the Ps.
Yeah, I was going to look up to somebody else there.
Dave Plombaum. Right, one more up.
7%.
Dave Plombaum, 7% pro-life.
And we got Hubler, Geronimus, 17%. Barbara Geronimus. And let's see, where's the other one
All
here?
right, Freddie. That's nice.
Hubler.
Okay, we'll get a close-up of this
26%.
Roy Rogers Hoff. The young man that won this a couple weeks ago did not come and pick it up, so you're out of luck. So we're going to give this brand new sealed tape of Politically Incorrect by Ralph Reed, who is one of the leaders of the Christian Coalition, and it's a 2 audio cassette tape of his book called Mainstream Values Are No Longer Politically Incorrect, The Emerging Faith Factor in American Politics by Ralph Reed. It's a total of 180 minutes worth of his book on tape, and I'm pretty sure he reads it. So it'll give you an insight For those of you on the left who want to get an insight into the the Christian right, here's your chance to win this tape so you can take it home and oogle and ogle all over it. All right, you got to answer this question right, and I'm going to take the next caller. On August 6th, 1890, this device is used in Auburn Prison, New York, to execute a condemned killer for the first time. Go ahead, caller. What's the answer?
Hey, Chuck.
Yes.
You should be, what does the Loyal Order of the Raccoons actually mean?
Exactly what it says. See the raccoon hat?
You know what you need on your show?
What's that?
You should have an announcer.
Yeah. We'll work on that real soon.
Introduce your show to everyone and call up the phone numbers as you go.
All right. Okay. Yeah, we'll work on that. Maybe Roy can find somebody off the street to do that. We are looking at a couple of people that claim to be homeless, so we're going to hire them for that.
All right.
Okay. Now, you know, some of them homeless people out there, Fred, you know, Eau Claire has a token homeless person that's been around now since last winter. Of course, he refuses to go to any of the shelters, and he gets a big fat check every month, so he's just kind of a guy that likes to hang around outside. So that's so much for Eau Claire's homeless. All right, now, do you know the answer to this, caller? If you do, you win the prize.
Okay.
What is it?
Well, what's the question?
Well, you should have been paying attention here. All right, this device was used in 1890, August 6th, at this prison in New York, Auburn Prison, to execute a condemned killer for the first time. What device was that?
I have no idea. A nude.
No, actually, it was the electric chair. Used in 1890, August 6th, for the first time. A prisoner had the misfortune to be tested out on this device, Fred, and I guess it worked, because that was 106 years ago, and I think he's still dead. Okay. All right, Fred, we're going to have to take another call because that caller missed. But first, have you got a short paragraph there, Fred?
Well, I got a little something. On the eve of the Republican convention, the opposing forces dig in for a big battle, and there is an attempt being made. Bob Dole's nominating convention, the peaceful show to meticulously arranged by Harley Barber.
Oh yeah, Harley Barber. Isn't he
Yeah.
related to the Harley Davidsons
Is he?
down there in Madison?
I don't know.
Yeah, that reminds me. Didn't you see Dave Zeenan, governor on the Harleys?
Yeah.
Yeah, Harley Barber. All right, go ahead.
Well, the Republican values might turn into a catfight between conservative and liberal delegates.
Well, Fred, what do you think about that? The convention's coming up here pretty quick now.
I joined the Republican Party because of the pro-life, pro-family, pro-decency, and now Dole and Harley Barber and a number of others are trying to take it away from being pro-life and whatnot.
Well, you know, Fred,
I'm not going to vote for anybody that isn't pro-life. I don't care if Bob Dole is running or he isn't running. I'm not going to vote for him.
well, you know, Fred, I was looking at the list of the people that are going to be speaking, and it's a fairly well-balanced list there of both pro-life and pro-abortion people speaking, and you have some pretty big-name people that are going to be on there speaking. Of course, the first night it just loaded down with speakers. Then the second night there's not as many. But you got Tommy Thompson speaking, and you got Carol Campbell, I'm pretty sure, is speaking, and you got Newt Gingrich is going to speak, and just about everybody except Jack Kemp and William Bennett and Pat Buchanan. That's the only three that kind of stuck out as not going to speak. And of course, Pat Robertson's not, but he's getting a great big financial bone. The Family Channel, which he is a major stockholder in, is going to be airing 11 hours of the convention, so he will be making up for it financially. Fred, in the meantime, we better take a caller and see if they can get this right. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
So what's the sir?
Pardon?
What's the question?
All right. The question is, August 5th, 1940, in one of the most successful days for British pilots, 75 German planes are shot down on this day during this battle. What's the name of that battle?
Normandy?
Pretty close. It was called the Battle of Britain. Okay, caller, what'd you have for a question tonight?
What do you guys think about the Olympics?
The Olympics. Well, what did you think about them, Fred?
Well, it was pretty good.
It was a pretty good show there for the United States. They really blew everyone else away as far as the medal totals, and I noticed unified Germany moved ahead of Russia in the total number of medals awarded this year. And so that was nice. You know, Russia now doesn't have all of those former republics of theirs to add on to their medal total. So now it's basically Russia, which has roughly a population a little bit larger than the United States. And so now the United States is coming into full bloom, and we're beating the pants off them Russians for a change.
What time, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty nice Olympics there, other than that one little pipe bomb there that they're trying to clear up who did that. Other than that, it looked like it was pretty successful, and I guess some off-duty National Guardsman was shot and killed in an attempted robbery, but other than that, it was pretty safe Olympics down there.
Yeah, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rick.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much for that statement there. Okay, Freddie, speaking about that convention here, I've got the odds on who's going to be named the vice presidential candidate.
Yeah.
Of course, Dole is keeping that quite a secret there. And so far, it looks like the three top people for that are John McCain, who is a U.S. Senator from Arizona. And you know whose place he took, Fred? Barry Goldwater's. Barry resigned. John McCain, who was held prisoner in Hanoi during the Vietnam War. He was shot down pilot, and he was held up there for about 6 years, repeatedly tortured by the benevolent North Vietnamese, and done things like his fingernails ripped out and his hands put on hot and cold and water dripping in the face for hours on end, and merciful beatings, and hung upside down by your heels for many hours on end while they were beaten with bamboo sticks and things like that. It was very cruel behavior by the North Vietnamese. And anyway, he survived that, came back, and ran for United States Senate in Arizona and took over Barry Goldwater's spot. He right now has the #1 spot to be picked as vice president by Bob Dole, and I think John McCain is pro-life. And #2, John Engler, who's in the running, looks like #2 the odds. Of course, this comes from the Roll Call magazine. It's a internet magazine that puts out these odds, and it's kind of like Las Vegas odds. John McCain is a 4-1 favorite. John Engler, who's the governor of Michigan, who has done many tax cuts in the few years that he's been in office, plus he's pro-life. He's in #2 position at 5-1 odds. Then we have Christine, I want to get an abortion, Todd Whitman, coming in at 3rd with 5-1 odds. So she's tied with Engler. And the other pro-life or pro-abortion candidate, Tom Ridge, who's the governor of Pennsylvania, he comes in a three-way tie with Engler and Whitman for 2nd place. Then in 3rd place, John Kasich out of Ohio comes in with 6-1 odds. So that's your short list of people. And of course, the guy right after Kasich was John Voinovich, and he's dropped out of the running. And so Tommy Thompson moves up to 6th place with 10-1 odds. So Tommy's in the top 6 picks of people who could very well be the next vice president of the United States. And we'll find that out on the 4th and final day of the convention, which is coming up from San Diego very, very shortly, Fred. I think it starts next Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday of next week. So it's right around the corner, Fred. Of course, today Bob Dole put out his tax cut proposals, which were well received, except for the left-wing socialist big spenders who don't want the taxpayer to get that money. They want to keep it because they think they know what's best for the country. Big government, big spending. Rob from the rich and the middle class and give to the poor. So, we'll take a call here and see what the caller thinks. Go ahead, caller.
Hi.
You're on the air.
One comment.
Yes.
An eagle needs both wings to soar proudly.
That's right.
Mars rules.
Okay, all right. Well, you missed a chance to win the free tape cassette there because you were wanting to get out your message there. And Of course, we don't want to give away the answer too quick, Fred. If I give them the question, that'll give somebody many, many minutes to get the answer, and we don't want to do that, Fred. So, we will take one more call to see if this person wants to win this tape book cassettes. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, Chuck.
Yes.
How did your show get called the Cow Report?
Well, actually, it was a compilation of several different words that we just bunched together. Since this is a dairy state, we call it the Cow Report as seen on TV. And of course, there it is.
Yeah, no, I was going to say I didn't smoke, thanks.
Okay, now you want to hang on here a minute. You might be able to win this 2 cassette tape volume of the this famous book called Politically Incorrect by Ralph Reed.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now you got to answer this question right.
All right.
All right, 1974, August 5th. This president is forced to release tapes revealing his activities in obstructing the Watergate investigation. Jubilant Democratic congressmen begin calling for his impeachment, a real possibility, although by no means certain. Who was that president?
Hey, Richard Nixon.
Yes, that was Richard Nixon. So you win this. You'll have to come down here to the Tire Factory Studios right here, and of course if Fred's here, he'll take you on a tour of the studios and take you around the big studios right in here and where the Cow Report is broadcast, and he'll take you around. And what's the tour, about 30-40 minutes, Fred, for the whole tour?
I wouldn't know.
Okay, but anyway, there it is, Politically Incorrect by Ralph Reed. So if you're on the left, this will give you some insight into how the Christian Coalition and the right wing of the party operates. If you're on the right, this will give you some pointers on how to win elections and how to be politically incorrect.
All right.
So this will be in my mailbox here. So come to the front desk of the Public Access and say you won the audio tapes, and tell them that they're in my mailbox, and they'll fish it out for you. It'll be there for 2 weeks. If you don't get it within 2 weeks, we're going to give it away again. That's the best I can do. All right, thanks for calling in. You're the lucky winner.
That's it.
Okay, Freddie, what do you got there?
Well, I see where President Clinton in mid-July appointed a new National Commission on Bioethics that would literally decide which human beings are not human. 15-minute National Bioethics Advisory Commission, named by Clinton just before the opening ceremonies of the 96 Olympics in Atlanta, give advice and recommendations to government entitled matters such as human embryo experimentation, euthanasia, and abortion.
Okay, what does that mean to you in layman's terms, Fred?
Well, it looks like the president is supporting these things.
Well, I hate to hear that. Well, you know, Fred, he does support a lot of things like that. We're going to take a call here in a minute, Fred, but I've got some very hot news off the internet. Sunday night at about 11 o'clock, I got this in my email, and it's entitled Bye Bye William J. And this is an interview with Sherman Skolnick, who has a show on Public Access in Chicago exactly the same time our show is on. I've spoken with him several times, and matter of fact, one of these days I'm going to run down there with a camera and we're going to film part of Sherman's show, and his show is watched by over 400,000 whole households, Fred. Of course, ours is only watched by 30,000 households, so you can see the magnitude of his program. But it's exactly the same kind of program as this. It is a public access program. Anyway, Sherman Skolnick, he's been around since the 60s. He's one of the first people to question whether John F. Kennedy was shot by the lone gunman or whether there was a conspiracy. Early on, even as early as 1964, he was already talking about a conspiracy in the Kennedy assassination. I remember listening to Sherman Skolnick talk about that back in the middle 60s, 64, 65, when I lived down in East Central Illinois as a young man. I was about 15 years old at the time. Okay, Fred, so here's what it is. This is an email magazine called Conspiracy Nation, and they did a quick interview with Sherman, and it runs very short. We're going to read it because it is very important, Fred. Conspiracy Nation, which I will abbreviate to call CN as the questioner, and Sherman Skolnick I will abbreviate as SS as the answer. Okay, CN, you heard that Bill Clinton had a meeting recently. SS, within the last couple of days, there was a meeting arranged by Robert Strauss, an elder statesman of the Democratic Party, together with other leading Democrats. They told Clinton that they had been informed by Kenneth Starr, the independent counsel, that Hillary Clinton, most likely, if not for certain, would be indicted between the Democratic convention at the end of August and the November presidential election. Strauss, who was the former head of the Democratic Party, told Clinton, this is according to Strauss's friends, that the Democrats do not want an October surprise that could bring down the Democratic Party with Clinton. They want him to resign 2 days before the Democratic convention. They intend to put up two people that they feel would be more suitable to the convention and the voters. John D. Rockefeller IV, of course he's known as J. Rockefeller, and possibly Al Gore, depending on how the public perceives whether Gore is so close to Clinton or not. If not Gore, then a running mate on the ticket would be John Kerry. The October surprise situation is, if an indictment comes against Hillary after September, assuming that Clinton becomes a nominee at the convention, it becomes an unprecedented situation. What will happen to Democrats running for Congress or for Senate? CN. So we can look for the press to be stepping up attacks on Clinton these next few weeks. SS. Probably so. However, there are legal problems. Strauss's friends are not convinced that Clinton exactly made a candid statement that he is going to do as he's been ordered to do, that is, resign. They can embarrass him, of course, by not making him the nominee at the convention. The other problem is legal. Were he to resign and become a private citizen, then if Hillary does get indicted, as Kenneth Starr has told Strauss, then Clinton himself can be named as a co-defendant with his wife. He only has immunity from prosecution under the U.S. Constitution as long as he remains in office. You can only remove a U.S. president by way of impeachment. That's all you can do to him. You cannot prosecute him. At least that's the interpretation of that provision of the Constitution. CN. So is Clinton going to fight this? SS. Well, some at the meeting were concerned that the strange wave of violence may not be accidental, that somebody may be orchestrating that because it seems to support keeping those in office. From all that I know, I think that Clinton will in fact resign. He's under a tremendous amount of pressure all the way around. I mean, if he resigns, he may go to jail. Conspiracy Nation. Okay, there's another elder statesman that made a statement recently. Barry Goldwater made the statement that he likes Bill Clinton, and the only way that he would vote for Bob Dole would be if Dole was the only candidate running for office. To me, that seems like a really major statement. He's the elder statesman of the Republican Party, and he's turning thumbs down on Dole. Sherman Skolnick. Please note that it was Barry Goldwater that put the finishing touches in many ways to Nixon. It was Barry Goldwater on behalf of the GOP delegation that went to Nixon and said, "You must resign." Conspiracy Nation. So both of these elder statesmen carry a lot of weight. Sherman Skolnick, especially Robert Strauss. He's big with the oil industry. All you've got to do is look him up in Who's Who in America. I'm sure they've got a complete rundown of how plugged in he is. And that's the end of the statement, Fred. So it looks like the bigwigs in the Democratic Party could very well be forcing Bill Clinton to resign. And of course, they're forcing him to resign could force him right into prison. As long as he remains the president, he's got a chance of going against an impeachment by the U.S. Senate. But if he resigns and becomes a private citizen, they could jump all over him. But it looks pretty certain that Hillary, those sealed indictments against Hillary are going to finally be opened, and she's going to be openly indicted here to embarrass Clinton here just before the election. What do you think about that, Fred?
Well, that would be good.
Okay, we'll take a call here. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, you consider yourself really Mr. American and keep the jobs here and pretty much all the American ways of living you believe in, right?
Is this a trick question?
No, it's not. It's a question.
It sounds like it's going to be, there's going to be you're going to try and trick me like 60 Minutes here or something.
No, not at all. It's just a question. Isn't this an open line?
Yes, it is. This is Open Line Monday.
Okay.
So the question is, I believe in all these things. So you're going to ask me why I drive a Yamaha or what?
Yeah, that too, and also where's your shirt made of? Made. Maybe your buddy there could check your tag and see if it's made in the USA.
This shirt?
Yeah.
Well, it came from J.C. Penney's. I think it is an American-made shirt.
Some sweatshop somewhere,
I don't know. So what are you getting at? Is this
or just wondering where your outfit is made.
okay? Well, I
What
think.
kind of a car do you drive?
Okay, this here raccoon was made right here in the United States.
I'm not talking about your hat. I'm
Roadkill.
talking about your shirt.
I think the shirt, as far as I know, is made in the United States. I bought it at J.C. Penney's.
Have your guys are right there, check. Let them look. Tag in the back.
All right,
That's right where it's made.
we'll do that. And where's the shirt that you're made? Where's that come from?
Mine isn't made in Taiwan or anything. Mine's made in USA.
Great. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear that you're 100% American. And yes, Fred, I admit it. I drive a 1983 Yamaha that I bought at a thrift sale, and money that I paid for it went right to another American. It's a 13-year-old motorcycle. Isn't that nice? The money out of my pocket went right to another American's pocket so that I could go out to Penny's and buy an American shirt. All right, Freddie. That woman was a little testy there. I don't know what her problem was tonight, Fred. Of course, the only place you can get those kind of calls is right here on the Cow Report, as seen on TV. All right. Fred, what do you got there? You got a little short
I got
paragraph there?
Senator Locke going along with Clinton's judicial nominees. And he voted for 14 nominees for the courts recently. And he's supposed to be a conservative, and none of these judicial appointments were conservatives.
Okay, well, that's good to know, Fred. I think most of the people on the Supreme Court now are fairly young, so they're going to be here into the 2000s. So that's one issue that we're going to not be able to deal with. But we can deal with changing the presidency, changing the state assemblies in our own state, changing the liberal spending of the city council members right here in this city. And we can work to make sure that we maintain control of the United States Senate and the House, no matter what happens to Bob Dole. There's some fine freshmen that need to be reelected, freshman Republicans, and there's a whole new crop of people that want to be freshmen that are going to come in, and they're going to fill a lot of those slots. There's something like 60 members of the House and Senate that are leaving for one reason or another. And so hopefully a lot of those seats will be filled by good conservative Republicans. Okay, I'm going to take another call here in a minute, Fred, but first, the Clintons are ignoring warnings on Union chiefs' mob ties. Of course, we had a call a couple weeks ago about that. President and Hillary Clinton maintained ties with a labor boss despite a blunt warning by the Justice Department's top mafia fighter that the First Lady avoid any direct contact with him because he was a mob puppet, and an internal department memo shows. The warning from Paul Coffey, who heads Justice's Organized Crime and Racketeering section, came in a January '94 memo to his boss shortly before Mrs. Clinton planned to address the Laborers International Union of North America and its president, Arthur Coia, C-O-I-A. It might be prudent to recommend that she avoid any direct contact with Coia, if possible, inasmuch as we plan to portray him as a mob puppet, wrote Mr. Coffey, who has campaigned to clean up the International Laborers Union, which I used to be a member of, Fred, in my youth. I was a member of the Laborers International Union of North America. Paid dues, so I was a union man. I also was a union shoemaker at one time, Fred, before most of the shoe industry was shipped overseas, and hundreds of thousands of people lost their jobs in the shoe industry. But because of a schedule conflict, Mrs. Clinton did not give the '94 speech, but did speak to the union the following year and meet with Mr. Coia. So we got the Clintons hobnobbing with union mob members. So we got to be leery of that too, Fred. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Okay, Chuck, I was just wondering, I know you were talking earlier about Dole and Clinton, and I was just wondering, there's a whole big battle going on between them right now, but are you aware of any of the other candidates that we're going to, almost like, the worst of both worlds there, but do you know any of the other candidates, where they stand?
Well, actually, now it's pretty much boiled down to Clinton and Dole. You're pretty much wasting your vote on any of these third and fourth party candidates. If you want to do just if you just want to have a protest vote and waste your vote, then you'll vote for Ross Perot for some people. It's kind of a French name, Perot, and some people call him, his followers, parasites. But you're going to be wasted. I've been watching the polls, and he runs anywhere from 5 to 12%. He's not going to be really a factor this time. And of course, Lamb has some very weird ideals about the elderly. I think at one time in his career, he mentioned something about euthanasia for people over 75 or 80. So he's kind of, you got to watch out where he's coming from. He's the other one in the Reform Party. Other than that, you just have a lot of people way out there in left field or right field.
You got there's another man, Brown, running on the Libertarians.
Yeah, well, he's another loser. It's only going to get about 1% of the vote. So it's pretty much just coming down to Dole or Clinton. You pick your choice and go with the right man, because that's where it's at. You're wasting your vote with all these others. This is the election of the century. If you want to get anywhere, vote for one or the other. If you want Clinton to lead us into the 21st century, a member of the baby boomer generation, or you want to have Bob Dole lead us into the 21st century, a member of the World War II generation, which Fred is proudly a member of. It's your choice, conservative or liberal.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I was just wondering if you had heard anything, contradictory or to the effect that Bob Dole was in the whole Area 51 cover-up.
51 cover-up. You mean those, see, that's just another tangent that gets people all mixed up. That, for years, there was nothing to that, but now all of a sudden, because of the internet and because of videos and stuff, people are making money off this Area 51 and all this other baloney coming out of Arizona. It's just a bunch of baloney to sidetrack you. The real issues are, who are we going to elect in 1996? It's not about some phony autopsy of some phony alien.
And what exactly went down in Area 51? I've heard bits and pieces. Do you?
Well, the official line is that it was a weather balloon that crashed. Most likely, what it was a top secret airplane that was being tested by the United States Air Force out west. And when it crashed, they had to go clean up the mess, because they didn't want some of the parts falling into the wrong hands. Remember, that was right during the Cold War era, right after World War II, and all of a sudden we were plunged into a Cold War that lasted all the way up to 1990. It was very important that they recover all the parts to that. It's not the first secret airplane that's crashed out west, and the same things happened all the way up till the present. When one of these highly sophisticated planes crash, like a stealth, if a stealth bomber crashes, you can guarantee that they're going to go out there and they're going to cordon off the area, and they're going to investigate and make sure that every scrap of that is cleaned up, and that so there's nothing left for the communists or for anybody else to get a hold of, so that they can use that technology against us. And that's basically what I think happened out there. Now, this alien stuff is just a bunch of baloney to get people all paranoid and nervous. And of course, with that Judgment Day thing that just came out, Independence Day or whatever it was, the big flying saucer movie just came out, all this stuff is heating up again. It's just a bugaboo, and it's just a way of getting you off the track. The issue right now is to make sure that we have proper leadership taking us into the year 2000, or it ain't going to matter how many aliens come. This country is going to collapse under its own weight if we don't have the right leadership. In not only the presidency, but in the Senate and the House, the state governorships, and the state senates and the state assemblies all over this country. That's what the real issues are about. So don't get sidetracked by all that baloney about aliens and stuff. The only aliens that are going to come are the angels and Jesus when he comes back. That's the only people you have to worry about. So don't get sidetracked by any of that other baloney.
Okay, in your personal opinion, though, who do you believe, in your own mind, to be the best candidate to lead us, per se, into the year 2000?
All right, I'll tell you.
Pat Buchanan.
Well, Fred's still stuck on Pat Buchanan and his 3 million votes that are going to be wasted. And they need to come into the month of August here and realize that the race is down to Bob Dole and Bill Clinton, and who Bob Dole picks for vice president. And that's who I want me leading into the next century, because first of all, Bob Dole is going to be a one-term president. And so it's very important who he picks for vice president. If he picks McCain or Tommy Thompson or Engler, they're going to end up being the president in the year 2000. So it is important who we vote for. So we got to vote for Dole Engler or Dole Thompson or Dole Kasich or whoever it is, whoever the team is. That's what I feel is the best selection. It's not wasting your vote on some third or fourth party. None of them parties are strong enough to do anything. And you're wasting your vote with Perot because he's a megalomaniac, egomaniac. He's a billionaire, and he's about a half a can light of a six-pack. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, Chuck, how you doing tonight?
Fine. How are you?
Okay. So I was wondering what you think about these bombings that have been going on. Seems like the evidence is pointing more and more toward Iranian terrorists, and that Saudi Arabian bombing of that barracks killed 19 soldiers. Now it seems as if the evidence is also pointing toward terrorist involvement in the TWA shootdown. If it is proven that Iranian terrorists were behind this, what do you think we ought to do?
Well, I'll tell you, we don't want to do what Clinton has done. Clinton, let me give you a little background of some of the things Clinton has twiddled his thumbs on. Over there in Rwanda, remember a few years back when over 500,000 people were slaughtered with machetes? Because they were black, Clinton didn't intercede. He thought it was fine, we'll just have a little population control and let them kill each other off. So at least 500,000 lives were lost in just a matter of weeks over there. Actually not ethnic fighting, it was tribal fighting between two black factions over there. And they're still killing each other. Okay, and then we fast forward a little bit to Bosnia. There's something like over 200,000 people have been killed there since Clinton took office. Well, when everything cooled down a bit, then Clinton finally sent troops in after years of concentration camps and torture and murder and 200 or 300 people being shot and thrown down wells. And this was all done under Clinton's watch. When he saw where it was safe, then he sent in troops after the fact, after hundreds of thousands of people were murdered. Now, we got the same thing going on here again. We do have terrorists around the world that want to bring the United States down. They wanted to do that for many years. Iran, Iraq, Libya, Syria. These are our enemies. These people around the world are enemies. They have their fifth columns within this country. They already have people that have bombs in this country and have devices that could do mass destruction and poison water supplies and things like that. So we are in a very precarious situation here. And most likely, the word looks like that this airplane was brought down with a Stinger missile, which was left over from the Afghanistan conflict when Afghanistan drove the Russians out. They used American-made Stingers to knock down Russian helicopters and fighter planes, and that's what turned the tide and forced the Russians to abandon Afghanistan. Well, there was something like 40 or 50 of these Stingers left over after that war, and the Mujahideen over there who fought the Russians met with the CIA and offered to sell those back. I guess it cost about $1 million a piece. They're shoulder-held Stinger missiles. You can just aim them at an airplane and pull the trigger. It's something like a bazooka, and aim it at a plane, and that thing will go and shoot down that plane. Well, they're saying now that very possibly there was a boat in the harbor in New York there that aimed a Stinger missile. It was either Iranians or Syrians or one of those factions over there of the Hezbollah who have they don't like the United States, and there's a lot of grudges to be settled, and so that could very well be what brought down that plane. So we're in a very serious situation here. I don't think Clinton's the man to lead us through that situation. I think it's somebody like Bob Dole, who fought in a very serious war and was wounded very seriously, who has been in the House and the Senate for many years, went through many dozens of crises and voted the right way on them to make sure American interests were protected. I think that's the man who's going to have to lead us through that situation. It's only just a few more months here, and hopefully nothing flares up here to where Clinton has to send American boys into combat when he refused to do it himself back during the Vietnam War when he was over in London, England, leading anti-war protesters against Americans. And John McCain probably remembers that very well, because I think that's about the time when he was laying up there in a prison up there in Hanoi and being tortured day after day while Clinton was helping give aid and comfort to the enemy. So we don't want that coward lead us into any world war against Iran or Iraq, which very well could explode here any minute. Hopefully things will stay calm until after he's out of office. That's what I think about Clinton leading us into anything. I just hope that it doesn't flare up to the point where we do get into a major conflict underneath his leadership.
That would be the height of hypocrisy, wouldn't it?
It is a very scary thought that he could very well lead us into World War III.
I remember when Reagan retaliated against Libya in 1986 for the bombing of that nightclub in Germany, where
Right.
one American died, just one.
He took out
Bombers in.
he took out Muammar Gaddafi's son or daughter were killed in that bombing.
Daughter, and unfortunately, but missed him sitting in his tent.
But it quieted him down. You haven't heard much out of him in the last 5 or 10 years either.
No, it turned him into a good boy for a while, didn't it?
Right, and that's the way we're going to have to treat these Iranians and Iraqis. I think Colin Powell pulled up too short there. He should have went all the way to Baghdad and forced a total surrender of them, because that Saddam Hussein has been killing his own people ever since over there, and has been miserable for some of his own people. And of course, Iran is no wonderland to live in either. It's under some very serious restraints over there too. So hopefully that situation will remain static until we get rid of Clinton, whether it's now or the year 2000.
Unfortunately, I think it's going to be 2000. I don't know how you feel.
Well, I think if you see that movie with the movie where the Scottish, what's the name of that movie that just won all the Academy Awards, and the British actor was in it. It's where the Scottish fight the English and drive them out of Scotland.
Braveheart?
Yeah, Braveheart. Well, in that movie there, the star, I can't remember his name right now.
Gibson.
Okay, Mel Gibson. He's standing there with his troops. He's outnumbered, and the British are almost upon him with their horses, and their arrows are flying through the air. He keeps telling his troops, hold, hold. In other words, don't retaliate until they're right upon you. And that's kind of what the Dole campaign reminds me of. He kept saying the word hold. We got to hold till the last minute here, and then we're going to start firing our shots. So Dole is held back. He's held back on TV ads. He's held back on spending money. I think you're going to see everything totally turn around here when they finally do engage the enemy here. You're going to see the whole Clinton baloney machine collapse there in front of him, with all the indictments and all of the dirt and the smut and all the murders and unsolved murders that are surrounding that guy. Something like 35, 40 bodies that are piled up around him. They're conspicuous or suspicious murders, and eliminations, and all the graft and the smut and all the slime that's surrounding him. You're going to see all that stuff. You're going to see that we're going to engage the enemy here, and you're going to see. I think you're going to see him get blown away here.
Yeah, well, whatever he's done is going to be shouted from the housetops one of these days.
Yep. Well, we want to thank you for calling in, caller, and we got Freddie chomping at the bit here to mention another little article here. So thanks for calling, and continue to watch the show, okay?
Okay.
All right, thanks. Okay, Fred, what you got there? We got about...
The Republican Party may be next. This week, the party took another giant step.
Take your hand off your mouth, Freddie.
Another giant step in the direction when House Speaker Newt Gingrich inflicted ex post facto discipline on Congressman Bob Dornan and Congressman Chris Smith.
Okay, that sounds pretty serious, Fred, there, and I hope they get that situation straightened out real quick. And of course, we got Roy Rogers Hoff. He's maintaining a vigil in the other room there to keep everything in line here, because we do have a wild and woolly crew with us tonight here, and Roy's keeping everything in line. And we want to thank you for all your hard work over the years. Roy, what have you been with us now, 20, 25 years? Great, glad to see you. And of course, Cliff and Chris Economaki, the Siamese twins of engineering, have agreed to fall underneath Roy's able leadership in there, and of course we'll tell you the story about how they ended up here at Public Access. But first we got to tell you about Flavin' Pop. And you know, folks, Flavin' Pop now has been on the market for many, many years.
Yeah.
It's climbed up the charts, and I think it's right behind Pepsi Cola now in Athens, Georgia, Fred.
It's nowhere near it.
And of course, you can find Flavin' Pop in two places, and two places only: funeral homes and gas stations. And we've told you why it's found at those two places, and I can't go into it tonight because we don't have a lot of time. So I'll just sing the jingle and then we'll get on to another call.
Oh, don't sing it. It's better that you don't do it.
And there it is, Flavin' Pop with the brand new label. Flavin' Pop, Flavin'
Oh,
Pop.
Flavin' Slop,
I don't drink
Flavin' Slop.
slop drink, Flavin' Pop.
Sorry, Flavin' Slop.
The thinking man's drink, and of course, there's Fred adding his 2 cents worth there. When he wants to, he can really speak the King's English lovely, can he? Okay, go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, how long have you been doing the cow report?
Oh, I don't know, it's been about what now, Fred, 20, 25 years, something like that?
No, it has not been.
Okay, something like that, yeah.
You've been doing it that long on this channel?
Yeah, well, this channel's went through many variations. It was Channel 4, and it was Channel 9, it was Channel 11, and I think we were even Channel 7 once, weren't we, Fred? Roy?
No.
Channel 5, Channel 3, Channel 4, Channel 11. It's been through 3 or 4 different changes there, but we've just stuck in there. And Channel 8, it was Channel 8 once, Channel 4,
Yeah.
Channel 11. Yeah, we've been through many, many changes over that long and checkered career here on the Cow Report. And even the Cow Reporters went through many different names, but we've stuck in there over the years, and to be now to where we've evolved into the most watched show on Monday night right here in the city of Eau Claire. So what's your question, caller?
Well, I don't know, but it'd be pretty hard to have a show on for 25 years when the station's only been around for 18.
Go figure. Okay. All right, I got something here. Suicide by shots to the chest. And this is from the McIlvaney Intelligence Advisor. And he has contacts with the FBI and CIA, and he writes a financial report. Mainstream media coverage of the alleged suicide of Navy Admiral Jeremy Mike Burda overlooked 2 vital facts. As former commander of NATO forces in Bosnia, was Burda in a position to know anything about the recent crash that killed Ron Brown? And did Burda really shoot himself in the chest as reported? That is an unusual way to commit suicide. The manager of the Bosnian airport close to the Ron Brown crash site also shot himself in the chest. Is this the beginning of a new trend? Of course, there have been several very suspicious suicides in the Clinton administrations, and going back all the way to when he was just a little lowly pup of a governor down there in a little one-horse state called Arkansas, which leads the nation in just about every category of being last, Fred, or next to last, no matter whether it's education or whatever you want to look at. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air, live, right here from the beautiful studios of the Cow Report.
How many channels you say you've been on there?
8, 4, 11, and several others over the years.
Is it pretty much just in Eau Claire, or is it?
Yeah, we reach into, I think we can be seen in Fairchild, Elk Mound, Altoona, Halley, Eau Claire, Washington Township, and parts of Union Township.
Do you think you'll ever get on like a statewide network or anything?
Well, we have sent the copies of the show down to Milwaukee to a channel down there, and we are working to see about sending it down to Chicago to my good buddy Sherman Skolnick to see if he can get it on public access in the Chicago area. So we do have some irons in the fire. So
maybe if you had changed your title to something else, you'd have a little more appeal across the state or maybe even nationally. I was thinking maybe something like the Cow Report Bucks.
Okay, well, there we have another enlightened, educated idiot, Fred. And you know there are a few of those out there that view the show. And of course, they're so addicted to the show they can't quit watching it, Fred, so thanks for your comments. Okay, we're down to the 1 minute warning. And so, Fred, if you got a short half-a-minute paragraph there, and then we're going to take one call.
Oh, you got one here.
Okay, 3 seconds.
Sacramento Bee addresses the wonders analysis that Pete Wilson is going to in torpedo Bob Dole.
All right. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Can I say one thing to my biggest fan, Ryan Palmer?
Okay, I guess you already said it. All right. Hope rising for workers who oppose use of their union dues to finance causes they oppose. Federal judge in Albany, New York, ruled June 14th that American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees failed to accommodate Edward Kelly's religious beliefs by forcing him to fund union advocacy on abortion and death penalty. Judge ruled Kelly must be allowed to donate a portion of his union dues to charity. Court victory heartened congressional supporters of H.R. 3580, Workers' Right to Know Act. Okay, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. My name has been Chuck Lee. I'm the host of the Cow Report. With me has been Fred the Truth Strafford, and my director has been Roy Rogers Hoff Sr. I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll see you again right here on the Cow Report, live 2 weeks from now. Adios, amigos and amigas.